Hello, welcome to Chick Chat and Chill. I am Laura Fickett, your co-host, owner of Fickett Financial Coaching and Business Education. I want to welcome you to this podcast because we love talking to each other and we love talking to you, and we are so grateful for all of our listeners. We have a great topic today. It's when to shut up or when to speak up, which sometimes it's hard to tell what you want to do when somebody has an issue. But I love to give consultations, free consultations to people that are having problems with money. So speak up, contact me, and we can set up a time to talk over the phone and see what's going on. I'm going to introduce you to my co-host, Antoinette.
Hello, I'm Antoinette. I'm the owner of Pixel This. And one thing you don't want to shut up is your brand or your business. You want to have that screaming loud and clear and display above all the noise of all your competitors. And that's what we aim to do. So whether you have a little startup or you're already a global powerhouse, we can do it all. So definitely give us a call. We'd love to help you out. So today's topic, I think it's super interesting because it's one thing because I think there's certain times where we know we should speak up and we know we should shut up, but there's those gray areas that I think people struggle with. And I could kind of give an example that I was struggling with. So
is it the speak up or shut up example?
Well, it was one I didn't know what to do. So what happened was I have an ex that he moved away and is engaged. And then he keeps contacting me to try to get together.
I'm going to vote shut up.
And well,
then block.
No, and it was one of those he's trying to get together and very inappropriate and all that stuff. So I was kind of in your camp, shut up, whatever. But then I was getting my hair cut. And the girl cutting my hair, she was in a marriage where her husband was cheating.
Oh, no.
And everyone on the planet knew except for her.
Mm.
And she was so disgusted. She's like, he was cheating for 10 years. And literally every neighbor, every friend, everybody knew it. And nobody told me. And I wouldn't have had kids. She's like, why couldn't someone have just told me? And she goes, you got to promise me to tell this person. And I was like, I don't know. That's where I got torn,
I don't know, because the Bible, God doesn't like when you sow discord among brethren. And I would have probably just prayed that she found out, kind of thing, because it's really not your place to spread the gossip, I suppose. But it's difficult because then you say, would I want to know? I mean, yeah, of course you'd want to know, but it's not really.
Yeah.
That is a tough one. I was thinking about this topic and I was thinking guys and girls are different, right? Because I think that when men are walking around and they are talking about a problem, they're trying to work out a solution. So if you can offer one, well, let's back up a tiny bit. If you can offer one that they think is their solution,
they'll love you for it, right?
If you offer one that's your solution, it's really good, they're mad. No, but I think guys are constantly looking for a solution, and so they want you to speak up and whatever. But I think sometimes girls are just venting and they don't want a solution. And so you should just listen and not speak up and give your opinion or your advice. And then other times if they ask for it. So it's it's a very gray area. Because sometimes even my daughters, they just want to vent. They don't want to, I want to solve it because I'm their mom, but they just want to vent. And so I need to shut up and just listen rather than speak up and tell them, what I feel about the situation. So I think for guys, it's pretty black and white. If they're talking about it, it's open season. But if for a woman, it's a little bit until they say what do you think? Or they use the words asking for your advice.
Yeah.
I think that's when you shut up. In your example though, I don't know, you shouldn't be spreading gossip or sowing discord among brethren. And so that one, what did you end up doing?
So what I ended up doing is
you sent a letter.
No, at first I was thinking of different things, just send a little, but then in the end I was like, you know what? I don't like spreading gossip or saying stuff like that. So I thought it best to talk to my ex. And I just sat him down and I'm just like, look, if you're not happy, where this is the person you want to spend your rest of life with, maybe you shouldn't marry them, and he explained some of his issues with her and all that. And, unfortunately he had some friends that they said, oh, when you get married, this goes down the drain. And I'm like, if it's terrible now, I'm like, that's just a horrible excuse. There's plenty of people that have great marriages with great everything, great communication, great sex lives, all that stuff. So if that's already failing, it's, you're doing yourself a disservice to, I've dated people too that looked great on paper, but in actuality, like, if that spark isn't there, it's not the right person.
The spark is very important. I think it's very important. But, I think some people look at social media, oh, this couple is so happy with it. Marriage is work.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been married now for quite a long time with my husband. This is my second marriage, and marriage is work. It's not always like skipping through the meadow, holding hands, like looking at rainbows for pots of gold. It's so, I mean, if the relationship is already work, you have to decide, do I want to work at it and we want to work together? Or, if it's too much work before you even get married, then pray and see. But certainly reaching out to your ex-spouse is not, or your ex-girlfriend is not the way to go. Did he end up?
I don't know. It was just one of those, he got a little upset with me, and
good. Then he stopped calling you.
So
perfect problem solved for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully she found out.
And then, it was funny because I almost thought too, like, maybe she knows but doesn't want to be, you know what I mean? Like, I
always think that, like in your first example, when she was like, everybody knew except me. I'm like, you didn't notice any patterns like that were different?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, my husband doesn't spend a lot of time talking on the phone. He's just not a people person. If all of a sudden he's taking phone calls outside every night, that's a pattern change.
Yeah.
I'm going to be tapping his phone.
The other thing, no, but the other thing I know so many people that are involved in a relationship, whether they're dating or married, but there's like no personal zone for them, where this is my space, this is yours. So like, they'll go through each other's phones, they'll go through this, and there's some are so untrusting of the other, where, I want to see who he's texting, or who's this, or who's that.
That's crazy.
And
I don't even have time to go through my own phone.
Yeah. So I was always like one of those, like, in my relationships, I trusted the person, completely. And if it ever got to the point where there was distrust there, I wouldn't need proof. They're not the one for me. Because if you love somebody, you do things to make yourself trustworthy. So if that's not there and you're constantly questioning, then
it's broken. Whether it's
already broken.
Yeah, whether it's broken in reality or broken like in fact, it doesn't really matter. It's broken either way.
Yeah.
But the one that I struggle with the most is that the complainers, right? So I call them tuna. If anybody been through my workshop, they know what I'm talking about. But they complain about things. And so I get unsure, like I might have advice for them on the particular thing they're complaining about, but I don't really know like if I should dispense it or if I should fake that I have to go to the bathroom and get out of the conversation.
The one thing,
the stuff that goes through my head is like crazy.
The one thing that I do, like more so in a business setting, where people would come to me and complain, like this one's doing this, or they're complaining about something with work. And what I would just say to them, like, I'm more than happy to listen to any of your complaints, but don't come to me with a complaint without a solution. Because, and if it's something about someone else where they're complaining, I would, my first question is, have you talked to them about it?
Right.
Because I think a lot of people, they like that, where misery loves company, and they want to vent and vent and vent. And I find if you shut that down very early, they're less likely to come to you with that stuff in the future.
So you speak up, but not in a way to dispense advice, to diffuse the complaining.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I mean, that's pretty good.
But I think there's also areas that you do speak up to, you know what I mean? Like even in the Bible.
Somebody's going to harm themselves, obviously.
Yeah, but like in the Bible, there are places to be, salt and light,
Mm-hmm.
and part of that is the discernment of knowing when,
Yeah, well, I mean, if you take Jesus, I mean, he dispensed God's information. So when I do speak up, I try to spread not my opinion, but God's opinion. So that's what I try to lead people to God. So say there's something going on in the news or whatever, and people want to discuss it, then I try to say, well, God's opinion is that, there's only two genders, whatever's going on. And I try to dispense his opinion. And if they say, well, I don't think so, I'm like, well, then you can have a conversation with God. I'm sure he's going to win. And he's correct because he created the genders. So, but you can take it up with him. It's, my opinion happens to align with God. But if I always try to go back and cite God's opinion on things, because then, I mean, what are they going to say?
Yeah.
That's God's opinion on the matter. But it is hard. Like, what if you see, a parent? So this is really, I've had these scenarios where, I see somebody in a supermarket. I don't even know them. And they're grabbing their child or doing something that I don't, it just makes me cringe. Do you speak up to strangers? What do you think?
I don't know.
Depends on how big they are.
Well, I mean, one thing that comes to mind, like a time in this supermarket, I think it's important to stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves, who are
Kids,
victims
elderly.
in a situation. Because I remember, once I was going through a checkout line, and the person in front of me was elderly, and I don't know, whatever their bill came out to, and they had a bunch of cash with coins. So they had to count out quite a bit in coins. Obviously, I don't know if they're just trying to use up coins or maybe cash was really tight for them. And the cashier got really impatient, and she grabbed him, just grabbed her hand. She goes, "Give me this. I'll do it." And she nasty. And
She's hourly. She should have let the lady sit there all day.
no, but to me, I was like, it's one thing to be efficient, and it's another thing. She was completely disrespectful, basically you inept human, let me do this for you. And I literally grabbed her by the wrists, and I just said, you let go of that woman and let her pay. No one in this line has a problem with her paying for, counting out her change herself. And then the cashier was like, ugh. So that was a time where I stood up.
And then double charged you on all your groceries.
But when I see parents and kids, it's I've seen too where, a kid does something really simple, I don't know, they trip and they fall and it hits the mom, and then it's every expletive on the planet, and you piece of whatever, and I shouldn't have had you, and my heart breaks. But
I feel even if you speak up,
it's going to fall on deaf ears.
Yeah, it's going to fall on deaf ears, and that might make them more angry, and the kid might, I don't know, it's so hard.
Yeah, it is one of those. I mean, things that I think you should check yourself when you think you should speak up. I think one is if you're emotional. A lot of times people speak up about things when they're heated or whatever. That is not the time, no matter what the situation is. Go off, cool down. There might be totally different things that will come out of your mouth once you're in a calm place.
In the heat of the moment is not the time to be making decisions, for sure.
No.
Texting, also not the place to speak up.
Or
on
drunk
something.
texting.
I always hated you.
No, it's the 2 a.m. and you're like, are you kidding me? No. So those are no-nos. And then I think you really got to ask yourself some questions is it helpful? What outcome am I hoping to get by saying this, and is it likely to happen by me speaking it? So, for example, with the mom and the kid, it's not something I speak up because I don't think the intended result that I'm hoping to get will happen. It has to be to me, I'm hoping a friend or relative that has more information on them can step in and do something where, it's their opinion matters, or they could take, get someone else involved that could help the welfare of the child. But
Yeah, sometimes I think like maybe if I try and make that person feel better, then the kids' shopping trip would be better. Like if I say, "Oh, I love your purse," and then the person's like, "Oh, thank you," da, da, da. And then maybe she'll treat the child better throughout the shopping trip.
Yeah.
That kind of
Well,
stuff.
that's
But
a
then
nice thought. Like, because it's true. If someone's happy, they're less likely to be, you know.
horrible. Yeah.
No, that's very. I never thought of that, but that's a good move. You know.
Because obviously they're having a bad day, unless there's just a really, I mean, I give people the benefit of the doubt that they're not horrible people. But then I think, like, you're doing this in public.
Yeah.
What are you doing in private? I don't like it. I don't love it. So I have a very hard time there. Like, do I speak up? What do I say? I like almost feel repulsed if I don't say anything. It's so, I mean, if I see people like at a party and things like that, and somebody's has unwanted attention, then I'm going to speak up, and hopefully my husband's there to back me up. But, but that kind of, those to me are very easy. Like if somebody's in danger, you know, something like that, that's very easy. It's the friends that are complaining, or you see something like that in public where I'm just like, I don't know, do I speak up or do I shut up? And I often, when I was younger, I spoke up all the time. Like I had to have like fists to back up my mouth. It was crazy. But now as an adult, I do think a little bit more, like you said, like what are the intended consequences of me speaking? And sometimes I do that when somebody's speaking to me. I'm like, what are they trying to accomplish by saying these words to my face?
Yeah.
Like let me give them the unintended result.
Yeah. No, but you know, too, like if somebody's saying something or you're going to say something, be kind. Like I knew somebody that I wish I had this trait, but they could say like, you know, eat a piece of poop and die, and you would thank them for it because they would come out so eloquently. You know, where they would basically put someone in their place in such a just tactful and respectful manner that they'd be like, "Oh, thank you, and it was wonderful meeting you." And I don't have that, you know.
Well, I guess that's kind of like, you know, as a follower of Jesus, we want to try and be more like him. And he did say a lot of harsh things to people, but they were taking it in as education. You know, when you read the Bible, some of his parables, I'm like, oh my gosh, like maybe you do those things, but you're taking it in as education. So maybe it really is. And you can speak up if you're doing it properly.
Yeah.
And if not, you should shut up. Because if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
I don't, well, in this case, it wouldn't be the, you know, but there is a nicer way to say it. But I think another area where it's important to speak up, I think if your boundaries are being crossed in a big way or someone's really disrespecting you. So it doesn't, again, the worst thing to do is just lash out at them and be like, I can't believe you, POS, you know, you said that, blah, blah, blah. But, you know,
She's using abbreviations. She's not actually saying the word. This is progress.
As a designer, it means point of sale, but but there are other, you know, meanings. But it's one of those that, you know, if someone's doing something that you feel really is hurtful, you know, rather than put them on the defensive and say, I can't believe you said that, or that was, you know, just say, wow, that really hurt me. And then they're more apt to listen to understand than respond back, because if you are in attack mode, they come back in attack mode.
Put them in defense.
If you talk about, you know, things, how it affected you or how you're feeling, people can't argue with you. People can't say, no, you're not hurt. I mean, that's a ridiculous argument. But, you know, it's one of those that if you keep it from that perspective, like, you know, that really hurt, or if they're being cruel, like, I remember I moved into this neighborhood and our road was getting repaved. So we had to park elsewhere. And then I was driving by, going to my, you know, parking elsewhere, and the guys doing the road, they're like, no, and they waved me down the road. So I guess I was the first car down the road. So I pulled down the road, pulled in my driveway, and my next door neighbor just had it, blew a gasket, like, you know, I can't believe this. And I, you know, like insult after insult after insult. And I just, you
drove over them.
No, but I was just like, first of all, I'm not going to let you speak to me like that. You know, I just said that.
Crazy,
like you either change your tone and change what you're saying, or I'm just walking away, because it's not even worth
They
me
thought
engaging.
that you drove on the road without permission. Is that
Yeah,
what they
like
thought?
what? I jumped over the pylon, or, you know, I don't know what he was upset about, but
It happens.
you know, there's one in every neighborhood. And I know when I moved in, I'm like, there's one in every neighborhood. I wonder how long it's going to take and who will be. Well, it took 2 weeks and it was my next door neighbor. So.
I remember this video of this taxi cab driver, though. Like, he had a client in the back and he was in New York City, and this guy was like having a bad day or whatever, and like slammed his hand down on the hood of the taxi, and he's swearing at the taxi cab driver, and he's just like, have a nice day. And the guy in the back seat's like, how can you be like so pleasant? He's like, I think of people as collecting garbage all day long. Like, they're just collecting garbage and collecting garbage. And then sometimes people like that guy are overflowing with garbage and they release it on the hood of my car. But I didn't give them the garbage. It's not my garbage to pick up and put in my body. So I just let them unload their garbage, and then we both go about our day.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes. So I think your neighbor was collecting a lot of garbage that day and just like released on you. The other one I was thinking about that I have a hard time with, this one I do need your advice on. So you care about somebody and they ask you a pointed question. They want your opinion.
Does my ass look fat in this dress?
Something like that. Something like that. Okay, they want you to speak up. They're asking you a question. How do you handle that? Because you can't say nothing. They're looking for a response. And I don't like to lie, but I also don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. But then if I like tiptoe around it, then they know the real answer. So, I mean, that one I feel entrapped. Like, you know, if somebody says to me, like if my husband says to me, do you like my haircut? And I don't, like, maybe I don't.
I don't know. I'm usually pretty honest with that stuff.
At least you still have your hair. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. I really don't know what I'm supposed to say.
Grow.
No, because like anything you say other than like it looks fantastic is gonna hurt their feelings.
Yeah. No, but I think there's ways to kind of let them know it's not your favorite haircut, but still make them feel like, oh my God, I'm going to be ugly for the next 3 months, you know? Or
wear a hat,
you know, or, you know, your ass looks fat in everything you wear. This dress is no different. You're like, you wouldn't say that, but there's ways
I feel like you would say that.
No, I wouldn't say that. You know, I mean, it would be one that's like, it doesn't make it look, you know, any different than it normally does, but there are more flattering cuts or something, you know?
Well, here's what I tried. Okay. I feel like when I ask somebody, like, what do you think of these jeans or what do you think of this shirt? It's because I myself am unsure. Like when I'm sure of something, like I think it fits good. I think I look good. I don't ask people's opinion, right?
Yeah.
You put it on, you're like, oh, I feel fantastic in this. But when you ask, I feel like it's because you're unsure. So you're asking somebody else's opinion to see. So the way I've spoken up, the way I'm trying to learn to speak up, because I failed like 3 weeks ago miserably on this particular example and hurt feelings. But the way I'm trying is, well, if you're asking me like, is there something you don't like about it? Or is like, and then they often say like, yeah, I just feel like there's a little too tight around here. And then you can agree with them and be like, yeah, I think so too. Like,
oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
And then you're on the same page and you don't hurt their feelings. You're just validating what they already felt.
Yeah.
Because think about it. If you have gotten a fantastic haircut, you don't go around saying like, what do you think of my haircut? You're just like, oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
If you got one that's like, you're like, what do you think?
Yeah. And another thing, just to tell people, it is never good under any situation. If somebody gets a haircut or somebody does some major switch to go, I like your hair better the other way. Or
like they can't go back to long hair once they've cut it up to their ears. Unless they start putting a weave in or something like that. It's just not going to happen.
No.
It's so like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You got to be careful about asking questions. I remember one time, I had gotten a divorce. I was single, and I was at this craft fair, or something. I had set up at this fair. I set up a booth, and this guy was like flirting with me, and he ended up asking me to do something after, and I couldn't figure out how old he was. You know, that's a problem. Like figuring out how old somebody was. So I said to him, like, well, how old are you? And so he told me, and he said, well, how old are you? I said, well, how old do you think I am? And he guessed like 10 years older than I was. And so then I said, hey, dude, listen, like, if you're going to guess a woman's age, you should really try and guess younger. Like, this is just some sound advice for you. And he said, I thought I was.
Oh, wow.
So be careful with the questions that you ask me.
Wow.
I know that's a core memory. Like,
Wow.
that has stuck out in my head. I've never asked anybody like, how old do you think I am now? But when you're asking people for advice, I wasn't mad because I asked.
Yeah.
Like I asked, right? So I guess if you're the person that's asking, you have to be prepared to take whatever's coming out the person's mouth too.
Yeah,
Like you
and
can't
not
be
get-
offended if they say, I don't like it or whatever, because you asked. Like,
Yeah.
so you have to take some responsibility, I think.
Yeah.
If you're asking an opinion, they're not going to shut up. They're going to speak up. And if you don't like, don't ask questions that you don't want to know the answer to. Very good sound advice. Write that down
So
in your notepad.
How do you handle people? Because I know a lot of people that I'm just giving one example. I'm not like shaming the elderly, but but there's some people that they probably were like this their whole life, but they're like, I'm 80. I've reached the point in my life where, I've earned the right to say these things. And a lot of the things they say have no filter.
Oh, yes.
And they're cruel. And I've never quite understood, like, how do you nicely tell them, like, you've never earned the right to be cruel to another person by how many years you've walked the planet, or
I did tell somebody this. I do have an answer for this. I know. This person's like in their 70s or 80s, and they're like, I've earned the right to say whatever I want to say. I'm like, you are absolutely right. Like, you can be negative for the rest of your life, but negative people do die sooner. So do what you want.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Negative people
I like
die
that.
sooner.
Yeah.
So they can say whatever they want to say and hurt people's feelings, but
Yeah.
we won't have to listen to you as long as if you were positive.
Yeah.
'Cause you'll be
I've also told people, and again, it's
I think that's a true statement too. My aunt lived to be 103. She just recently passed away, and she was so positive.
yeah.
Like,
I think it's not only that you live longer, but you're more apt to have true friends, because I know so many people that there are the complainers, like, oh, it's hot out. It's like, then why live in Florida? Like, like, it's August in Florida. Is this going to be the conversation every single
it's
day?
hot in New England during the summer. I lived in New England. It's hot in a lot of places. Like,
But
what
it's
is
like-
the perfect temperature? Because, when I had my house at 74 in Florida and 74 in Massachusetts, like, for some reason, 74 does not seem the same depending on where
No,
you
it
are. Like,
definitely is
there's no, like, perfect temperature.
Yeah.
People complain about the weather. Oh, that's all going to be a whole nother topic. Stop complaining about the weather. You're
Yeah.
wasting your breath.
Yeah.
Like, the weather changes constantly. God's in charge of it. Take it up with him. Stop talking to us about it. We have no control.
Yeah. Or even those like political conversations, because
Oh, those are so much fun.
because even like I know people that they'll constantly bring up politics, and I even have a very similar political viewpoint to them, but they're so negative about what's going on, and I'm just like, oh my God, just shut up. Like, and it got
So do
to
you
the
speak up and like entertain the conversation, or do you shut
no,
up?
like, I mean, if it goes past one or two sentences, I had told them, like, look, this is not a topic I enjoy. It brings me down. I'm a positive person. I like happy, whatever. And then if they bring it up, I'll just go politics. And if they keep talking, I literally get up and walk away, which I've done.
They could think that was rude.
Well, they know the reason why. It's one of those that, I mean, especially if something is, and I know there are certain people that they actually take joy in finding people's weak spot and then tearing at it. Yeah.
Instigators.
I have a few in my family that I knew, like, if they find that thing that annoys you, then they'll just harp and harp and harp and harp. And
like being pecked to death by a chicken.
but it is, and those are tough because it does emotionally get to you. But you know.
Well, I teach people in my workshop that like there's sharks, right? You come in contact with them, they swim by themselves, they have a fin on, and like they have a conversation with you and they take a chunk out of your skin and you're standing there bleeding as they walk away and you're like, what just happened? Like those people exist, right? But then on the other spectrum, there's tuna that just complain and they're like, oh, I'm so unlucky. And why does this always happen to me? And I have all these problems. And like, they're like wraiths that just like suck the energy right out of your mouth. And you feel like you need a nap after you have a conversation with them. Those are tuna. And then the people you should hang around with are dolphins. Those are the ones that are like swimming around, warding off shark attacks. They're fun loving, arching through the water like graceful creatures. And they want to like, they work together to help have a better environment. Those are the ones you should, that's the quick and dirty on why I call them tuna. But the tuna people, like, man, I don't speak up with them. I just like try to get out of the situation or bring them to a higher level of like happiness. Yeah. Try to bring them to my level and not go down to their level because I'm going to be tired and exhausted. In politics, when it comes to politics, I don't see any dolphin level. Like, I don't. When people have political conversations with me, I'm like, okay, I understand that the government, like, I'm never going to know everything that's going on, but I'm sure that it's not in my best interest. They're not like, oh, you know what? Let's see what Laura Fickett really needs and let's provide that for her. No, not going to happen. And so I find it like useless conversation. I'd rather have a conversation about something that's going to enhance both of our lives than detract. So
yeah, I think with those, just let them know like this isn't a topic I really want to discuss, but then offer something else up too. Like, hey, but you know, I am curious about, you know, you mentioned that you were going to do this last week and take your kids here. How was that? And then it quickly brings them to a happy memory. So you could also be part of the change that you want to see in that person because some people really just struggle with conversation. So sometimes the thing that's most pressing on them or that they're upset about, that's top of mind. So give them other things to think about. I mean, you're not defenseless in that conversation.
Being
either.
held hostage.
Yeah.
What
Free
you
the
don't want to
tuna.
say.
Take them out of the net.
What you don't want to say is, wow, I find it so interesting that you can spend so much time researching these topics. However, you don't use that time to be productive in society. Like, those are the kind of things that you should probably avoid, right?
Never. I think anything that you're like, you know, it's
a backhanded compliment. I'm complimenting the fact that you research all these political things, but in fact, you could have been learning Chinese.
I remember my mom, who's like one of the sweetest people in the world, she doesn't have so like cute. A mean bone in her body. But a lot of times when she says stuff, it comes out in such a way that you know it's from such a like beautiful, loving place, but then it sounds terrible. So I'll give you an example. So, you know, I'll see her and she's like, oh my gosh, that's such a pretty blouse. That's so much better than the one you had on yesterday.
I know. If she could have just stopped it, it would have been fine. Yeah,
but she was just like in her mind, she just is in love with this blouse, you know? And it's not that she's not saying yesterday's was bad, but it was just like so remarkably better. And it's tough, you know? Again, like I said, when you think to what their motivation is, because I think a lot of arguments happen, especially in relationships, is from a misunderstanding.
Oh, yeah. Her intention was totally to make you feel good and compliment the blouse.
Yeah. So to sit there and pick it apart just is ridiculous. So, and I think in relationships, like I said, it's that misunderstanding. So rather than react to what just came out of their mouth or something that they did that you were like, oh my God, just ask them, like, you know, if you're really that confused, just go, I'm curious, like, what was your intention with this? Or why'd you do that? And they're more than happy to explain. And
unless they're a guy, because sometimes they're like, I don't really know why I said what I said. Did I even speak? I'm like, okay, forget it. I'm just kidding.
No, but
you're right. People sweat the small stuff and they read in between the lines and they interpret things the way they shouldn't and just relax.
Yeah.
Just relax.
Yeah.
But we have to wrap things up.
So sad.
I know.
No, but it was nice talking about that. But we have a good topic coming up. So both myself and Laura are stressed with with all that's going on. So we're going to dive into that topic, and hopefully if I think everybody's a little stressed.
Sometimes
More
I feel
days than
very
not.
unsettled.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to be stressed, but how to handle the stress is really important.
Yeah. So we want you to be blessed and not stressed.
Yay!
So yeah, definitely join us next week for that. But until then, never stop laughing.
And never stop learning. See you soon.